we've got this moniker called brains and bots. So it's like brains are actually the things that matter. Bots are there to enable the brains to do better work.
Like if AI produces and distributes content, that's bad. That's just bad.
So if you just get one snippet wrong, it really can discredit your business or service.
Yeah.
It can so easily mimic people now. It can change people's voice. It can pretend it's to you. It can ring people. It can email. It's a slightly terrifying world.
Welcome back, guys, to the Prompted podcast. I'm here with Chris.
Hi, guys. Welcome
and
back.
A very special guest this time. We've got Mr. Stephen Kenwright.
Hello.
Welcome to the pod. How's it going?
It's really good. Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries. We're back on episode 2. We've hyped you as a secret guest quite a lot. So now people know who you are and why you're here.
Yeah, no pressure.
No pressure at all. No. And we're in a new studio as well. So this is actually the Colony studio. We've changed location for once. So let us know what you guys think about that down below. But yeah, we're back for round 2. I think a lot of people learned a lot from the first one, whether that's just our sort of ramblings about AI. So we're probably looking to make this a bit more structured today, aren't we?
Yeah, hoping so. We'll see where we get to. So Kenwright, it's been a while. We've obviously we know each other from years gone by.
We do,
but I'm not sure. I imagine a lot of people know who you are and what you've done and where you're at right now. But for people that don't, do you want to give us a quick overview of who you are?
Yes. So hello. So I'm now a non-exec director and consultant working exclusively with marketing agencies, or pretty much exclusively with marketing agencies. But up until this point in my career, I was at an agency called Branded 3 for about 7 years, and that got acquired and merged and did a bunch of the M&A stuff in the networks, and then went in-house for a little while and headed up digital at Pendragon PLC, which is, it was at the time the UK's largest car dealership. So Stratstone and Evans House Shaw would be the two public-facing brands that you might have heard of. But that was a huge business, about 4.7 billion turnover. And then straight after that, I started my own marketing agency called Rise at 7, co-founded with Carrie Rose. And I was there for probably 3.5 years. During that time, we grew from just the two of us to 110 people, 7.3 million turnover, 2 countries, 4 cities, BAFTA awards and some other stuff. And then I was in such a fortunate position to be able to sell my stake in the business and have 18 months at home as a stay-at-home dad. And via another agency called Ride Shotgun in between, where I was heading up strategy, brand strategy and digital again. I'm now solo, now on my own, doing this kind of thing with marketing agencies.
Nice. How are you finding it so far? Is it everything you expected it to be? Is it different?
It's good. I'm really enjoying it, yeah. I thought it would be more... The reason I didn't do this straight after Rise at 7, because I did think I'd always wanted to do the consulting thing. I just had so long at home on my own. I thought I didn't want to be at home on my own anymore. I wanted to be in an office and see people. And I think after COVID, the office is a little bit different now. It's not the same as it was. So having not really kind of got that I was looking for, and actually finding now I'm consulting that it's not lonely at all. I'm talking to people all day, every day. It's the opposite of lonely. So actually, yeah, really good, really enjoying it.
Nice. I think the benefit as well of working for yourself that I've realised is you get to just talk to so many new people every day and different experiences, and you just build up that network really, really quickly. Whereas certainly for me, when I was in one business or one agency, doing my very specific role, I didn't necessarily have that exposure that I wanted to, even though I was sat next to loads of people I knew every day. So it's definitely exciting times. Are you seeing that yourself, or like how are you kind of utilising your network at the moment? Because you're doing quite a lot of talks now as well, aren't you?
Yeah, doing a fair few talks. It's been obviously a lot on AI this year as well, which has been quite fun. But obviously I'm still agency side, so slightly different side of a coin, I guess. Sure. But yeah, it's been nice. I think I've probably used this year more than ever to network, to meet new people, and to reconnect with people that I've not actually seen in a decent amount of time. I think, I don't know, like trying to pull it back to where we want to be. Like, even though AI and automation is a big part of what I'm doing now, I actually think that community is probably one of the larger things for me. And 2025 has been the year of community for a lot of people. I think we probably all maybe agree with that one.
Definitely. So I'm really interested in kind of your business, maybe not the business you're at now, but when even at the agencies before that, when did AI really start to come into your workflow, and when did you really think, right, I don't know exactly how to use it, but I know I need to start using it in some way?
So there's a couple of interesting aspects of this. I think my first experience with, and we'll call it machine learning, like we used to, and nothing changed, and we started calling it AI. But if we think about machine learning, my first exposure to machine learning was when I was doing my master's degree. So I've got a master's in Shakespeare and Renaissance literature, which is not probably where you would expect to find AI and machine learning. But when I was doing my master's, we had some lectures from a guy called Ray Siemens, who was at the University of Vancouver. And he was studying a manuscript called the Devonshire manuscript, which is basically a large collection of poetry that was written during the time of Henry VIII by the royal court. And the hypothesis is at least some of that was written by Anne Boleyn, and some other courtiers had contributed some other writings. And so Ray and the university were using machine learning to identify handwriting across lots of other letters and across the manuscript itself to work out who wrote what in this particular manuscript. So ultimately trying to find out, did Anne Boleyn write any of these particular poems? So I thought that was like really interesting. But what's more interesting than that is I didn't see machine learning or AI again for the next 5 years. No one mentioned it. No one spoke about it. It was just not a point of conversation at all. And it was only when my agency, Branded 3, merged with another agency in the group called Edit that we started to see a lot more machine learning. And that was a data agency. So historically, it just owned and processed tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of customer records, did a lot of CRM, generally speaking, but built tech off the back of it as well. And so they had all these deep capabilities. And I remember when we started becoming part of Edit and looked at some of the work that they've been doing, the most amazing piece of work I saw, they'd been working with a charity called Crowd to Map to basically in Rwanda and some of the other parts of sub-Saharan Africa, established just based on maps where it's not really clear from the aerial screenshots, just what you can see on Google Maps or Google Earth or whatever, where people actually lived. And there's no actual maps that say there's a settlement here, there's a settlement there, there's a settlement there. And so Crowd to Map were trying to work out where the human settlements are, because there was all sorts of things going on where they needed to get aid to places they didn't know there were places. So Edit was helping them, along with some other volunteers, to use machine learning to be able to work out based on screenshots, aerial screenshots, there's people there, that's where you want to go. And so it's really interesting because it feels like, being in the marketing space, that this stuff is new. And the reality is it's new to the marketing space, but actually a lot of other industries have been using this stuff for a little while. It's not just had this exact moment. It just feels more real to us all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think we see that even within the marketing space, especially from a paid media point of view. We've actually been using some form of like ML or machine learning, AI, whatever you want to call it, like from since smart bidding on Google, which is now 10 years old, coming up to that now.
Yeah.
It's when I first started in the industry.
Yeah, it's pretty old. It feels like it's only yesterday that we were using a form of manual bidding, but then that was just so long ago now. And I know you use it a lot, this kind of term in that AI isn't automation, but we've been using automation for a long, long time. And it's only now that you've kind of got those LLMs that are starting to come through. I remember at Brighton SEO maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago, and they'd started mentioning, all like the SEO nerds were sort of saying, right, well, we've started to use something and it started to build we can make a story with it. And I was like, that's really, really cool. But it's only really maybe 6 months later when ChatGPT launched / dropped that it really ramped up, and everyday people were using it. But actually it kind of been floating around a bit, like you say, for years before that. Just wasn't really mass used as such, or used in a way that it's now user friendly for anyone that can just pick it up and prompt. Before, you had to know quite a lot of code to make it function.
It's that whole thing about, I think that's why we're seeing a lot more of it, and it'd be interesting to get your thoughts on it as well. It's become more commoditized in the market where it's so accessible nowadays. I know, come on, that's a household name. If you mention ChatGPT, I'd say everybody and their grandma knows about it now. Whereas before, you're like, yeah, what is it? It's just AI. It felt very futuristic, where it feels, I don't know, maybe a bit more present now than it ever has done.
You're right. I guess when we're looking at AI and its uses now, though, if we flash forward to, the marketing space, how are the companies that you're working with trying to use it, or how do you think that companies should be using it? Because I remember I listened to you on a podcast before, and ultimately, and this view might be outdated now, but a lot of agencies don't have the foggiest of clue what they should be doing. They just know they need to use it, but they don't know how. And I think that can be dangerous sometimes, can't it?
It can. Yeah, because the most obvious space to use AI is to automate or reduce the amount of effort it takes to do some of the things that you do a lot of. And the agency model is predicated on doing a lot of things a lot. And so that's got quite a lot of friction there, where all of a sudden the things that you would have used juniors for, the things that the people who are coming up into the industry for the first time are learning their craft by repetitively doing it. And, there's value in repetition, right? That's one of the ways people learn things, because that thing is the bit that can be automated and more frequently is being automated by agencies. There's all of a sudden a lot of people in those businesses who are now being asked to do things that are more contextually difficult, more things that need some higher level of strategic training, some more marketing background, some more understanding of things. So all of a sudden, I think that there's such a space for training and upskilling and really being able to talk on a more strategic level with more senior marketing clients in the agency space. It's all of a sudden become necessary because of AI. And I think that's one of the things that's falling out of it really quickly. The common things usually that are being sped up are research. Most agencies are using it to speed up research, right? You're pulling together a strategy. You want to evidence, but what you're doing is the right thing to do. And historically, that would have been either you're paying for access for a couple of different things, your trusted sources, and, GWI says that, or YouGov says that, or whatever, or a couple of research reports. And, what you find is what you use. So all of a sudden, there's a much wider library of things that get pulled into these studies. And then that gives you a more theoretically well-rounded view of what your strategy should be. That opens up a can of worms as well, because AI doesn't necessarily know what sources are good or not. The amount of times that it pulls in Forbes, for example, and that's not where I would base my strategy on. So I think that there's a lot of, different skills that are being required all of a sudden as a result of that. And I think that agencies haven't necessarily prepared their staff as well. But, let's not forget staff also haven't prepared themselves as well, because this is a two-way thing.
Absolutely. I think it was quite funny. I had a client maybe a few weeks ago that was trying to manipulate the ChatGPT searches themselves. So they were sort of getting who are the top 5 property auctioneers in my area. And they were going, why did you put them as number 1? Put this one as number 1 next time. And it was quite funny. They were trying to interact with the ChatGPT model to sort of influence its decision making. But ultimately, they don't know what's going to influence it or where it gets its data from. But we know that, I guess, sort of linking back to being SEOers, we know that, links or good content is what it's fueling these things to produce those sorts of results. So I think the future of, ads and ChatGPT and AI, ads in AI are just going to be completely different to maybe what we're seeing today, don't you think?
Yeah, I think it's going to be, ads in ChatGPT or other LLMs is going to be quite an interesting piece. I think a lot of it's going to be driven by feeds more than anything else. It's not going to be keywords. It's going to be themes and feeds more than anything. And we're seeing that now. So if you go on, AI overviews or, AI mode for Google, one of the quickest things we've seen, it was actually spotted by a member of the team, a guy called John Herrick, one of our MVP paid media people. He'd made a change to a feed and changed it to say free delivery in the feed. About 2 hours later, he saw that appear in the AI overview, which we're now seeing, but we are seeing indications that feeds could potentially be the thing that are going to really impact AI overviews, which is big for SEOs as well, not just a paid point of view. So also it's the merchant center, but you can have a separate feed and manipulate it as you see fit. And I think that's where potentially the route we're going down alongside. I can't remember the source, but was it brand anchors and brand mentions were some of the big things to appear in LLMs just in general. So I think we're going to see quite a melting pot of different ways to manipulate and optimize towards these different services.
Yeah, 2 hours is rapid, by the way. I have always just in my mind thought AI overviews would just update a bit like an SEO link every few days, just quite a slow thing. But to have someone make a change in a feed and update an AI overview pretty much instantly I didn't know that. So I'm going to be sort of having a look at that now.
I was chatting to Matt Bezic about it. Matt's is essentially a feed wizard. He's one of those people you go to for shopping feeds. And he started to testing and seeing whether he can find the same thing. So hopefully by the time this comes out, we can probably link to a post Matt has done.
Yeah.
And it's proved that it is one of the largest indicators. You mentioned earlier about juniors and about how juniors, the jobs that they're doing are potentially being, I would say, being made redundant by the rise of automation. Let's not call it AI, but automation in this way. What do you think juniors probably need to be learning nowadays to sort of get into the field? Or should I say, what should agencies be teaching them? What skill set should we be going for now? Because it's not doing the repetitive tasks we want to work, right?
I think that there needs to be more context of why those repetitive tasks are done in the first place, right? I don't think it's a bad thing that we're automating title tag writing. I think that probably makes sense as a thing to do. I don't think anyone, apart from the juniors, really win by writing a lot of title tags, and I think it's debatable how much they win by writing pages of title tags. I think the understanding of why we're doing that can actually make it so that they're having more input into why we would do those things in the first place. So when we're thinking about what's influencing search rankings, as an example, title tags are one of those things. And a lot of the times what agencies are built to do really is to create a process and roll out that process across whichever client comes on board. And so you kind of do title tags because you do title tags. And the reality is, in a lot of those circumstances, they're probably okay. They might not move the needle in some cases as much as it does in the others. So having the training around, well, what are the other things that influence this? And so instead of thinking about how do I write title tags as being the first thing that I do, why would I write title tags as being probably a little bit more useful context? And I think like some of those things, especially when you're thinking about the interaction between SEO and PPC, it's always struck me that SEOs have been so focused on, well, rewrite the title tags every 6 months or something, and PPC people are like, I do this every day. Like, why are you complaining about this? Like, there's lots of good reasons to do it, but I think a little bit more of an understanding of why we do some of the things that we do is kind of missing at the entry level of an agency. You probably get to manager level and above before you really have the opportunity to question whether the strategy you're implementing is right in this case, because there is some nuance.
I do think you're right to kind of bridge that link between SEO and PPC. Like PPC are looking at ads that have 15 headlines in that's constantly changing every day. Google's doing all that legwork for us, and it's almost just having that sort of link between PPC and SEO to say, look, we tested these 15 for this ad, this one's the one to use, change it to that, and that will work better. And I think the more that AI and automation comes into play, the more that freedom that should, or time that should unlock for these channels to cross collaborate. Because definitely what I've seen in my time, both working in agency and brands, is that there isn't that cross collaboration. If someone's in a PPC hat and they've got a PPC job, they will protect that PPC budget. No matter how good TikTok does, they will go, my Google budget stays. So it's almost just like being able to be very, broad-minded and not just like say, this is my one channel, but actually think a bit bigger as marketeers.
And it's particularly tough because the overarching narrative for the last 5 years, 10 years has been go narrow. You don't need to know the theory. Don't go to university. You should come straight into an agency or, into that kind of environment, and you should start writing your title tags and learn by doing. And I would take someone who's got 3 years of experience as an exec over someone who's got 3 years of theory. And I'm not sure that's the case anymore, or in the first place, actually. But I think that more and more the actual education and marketing strategy is becoming kind of, and it sounds really silly to say it, quite important in marketing, actually knowing a bit about marketing. So it's tough, but I think, I'm not saying university is the only route, but I do think that broad knowledge and a bit of an understanding of multiple channels, and not even just SEO and PPC, but like why brands do these things and why they do some of the other things and why they don't some of the others, basically, is important.
100%. I think one thing that I found with the market in general is everyone lacks context. It's like, I feel that there's a lot more like business consultancy that needs to happen nowadays for people to understand the reasons that we make changes, especially with the rise of automation, AI, whatever we want to tout it as. Like having that understanding and deep business understanding of your clients or who you're working with is actually pretty damn key. It's like, it's not just like a CPA or cost per acquisition is just a byproduct of a larger business goal, and understanding that and then being understanding like how your strategy sort of like goes into that is obviously an incredibly important thing for me. And it's something I'll probably always tell teams, irrespective of where I am, is give the context why and understand how instead of just the action that gets you there. It's something that seems to be going a bit more downhill now. We've got people relying on chatbots or going to Google and AI mode for answers. It feels that I don't know, dare I say, marketing's becoming a bit lazier than it used to be in some ways.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely a risk of it. Like, you think about how easy it is to find an answer on ChatGPT, and we've talked about this before. It could be so easy for it to be wrong, but people are taking it as gospel, even though you've got the big warning underneath that says some of this data might be wrong. So it is potential for people to be lazy, but I think that's why, going back to your point about having the doers, they've experienced that, they know kind of what works and what doesn't, and I think that's really important. But ultimately, when we boil down to it, as kind of agencies and companies, we're responsible for making a business commercially viable, for making it profit, for making it money. And as long as I think we're using AI to back our decisions up through research or by actioning something to make people more money, that's what's going to keep us in a job, not necessarily just spewing out content that's full of AI or spewing out videos because they look cute. It's how do we use that in a business sense that fuels their growth, isn't it?
Yeah, could we just get rid of AI generated video? I know Nano Banana nowadays.
Yes.
Pretty damn good, but I'm also like, let's not take creativity away from people. Like it is one of the big things. Give people an 8N or NaN in your case, and let people automate the back end, but leave creativity and thinking and strategy to people, not robots as such.
I definitely agree. Takeaway quote there for anyone.
I was going to say, a great soundbite.
Yeah. I guess looking back at your kind of career as well, if you were to scale an agency today, would you do anything differently to maybe agencies you scaled before?
Yeah, I don't think there is a world now where headcount is going to be the goal for any business. And I think, you could argue that it was vanity for a long time, but actually there's a real strategic benefit to having a lot of people. And actually, you look at the network agencies, the core strength that they have is that they're big. So there is value in that, having the broad skill set, having a lot of life experience in lots of different places, and a deep bench for when you have to make layoffs or someone leaves or whatever. There's some benefit in that. So let's ignore the ones that have already scaled for a second. If we're thinking about like scaling a business moving forwards, I think there's and we were talking about this before we went on air. There is a spectrum of how a business operates or how an agency operates particularly. And a guy called Roger Martin, who wrote a book called Playing to Win, is a really good book anyway, but he's written a bunch of interesting thought leadership, and he talks about the difference between planning and strategy. And so planning is what you do in consultancies and what you do in agencies. It's like you have a process, you have a playbook, you have a step-by-step, and you find people to roll that out on. And then strategy is you have a goal and you reverse engineer that goal, and whatever you need to do to get there, it might not have ever been done before. Doesn't matter. It's trying to work out what would be the way to win. How would we actually achieve this goal? And if you think about the agencies of today, certainly the agencies of 5 years ago and beyond, they are planning businesses. They have a playbook. They have their methodology. They win more clients so that they can roll out their methodology. And that's how they make money. And do you know what? That's how they make clients money. It's not a bad way of doing things, full stop. It's just that's how things have been done historically. I don't think that you will get quite so many very large businesses doing that kind of thing anymore, because there's so much nuance and so much context and so much difference in what client situations are now for lots and lots of reasons. And, not just the AI environment, but the economic environment. The current political system in the country punishes headcount with national insurance rises and all sorts of other things that make it difficult to hire a lot of people. So scaling is not people now. Scaling revenue probably looks more like that second thing. It looks more like strategy. It looks more like acts of creativity for different businesses, where it's trying to understand the objective, trying to understand all of the obstacles between the business and the objective, and using AI, smart people, creativity, and all the skill sets we have available to move them out of the way and get there. But it's not a we do this thing and we roll it out over and over again. Moving forwards, I think it's much more of a we have smart people who can help to move things out of the way and get you to where you're going. And that's really tricky, because it's hard to sell an agency based on we have smart people, because everyone does.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think if I remember a quote from my old boss, he used to say, the most expensive thing in my business at the moment walks in and it walks out. And, people are really expensive. Crowd have got it really good at the moment, I always think, in that they have this huge freelancer pool and they will tap in on certain people and certain industries because they know that they're there, but they're not on any sort of payroll and they don't have any sort of obligation to pay them until they know that they need that resource. And I think that's really, really interesting. How are you using Impression Light in terms of trying to scale up and utilizing people?
So I think Impression, we've gone down that route of we're using automation and AI as a way of like enabling people more. So we know that like people are expensive, people, cost us money, but also they are also what makes our agency tick and work. So how can we free up people's time to do the work that actually matters? You'll be as whereas I am, like going through a search term report is actually a laborious task, but realistically, if you set certain parameters, which you can do with scripts, but imagine you've got some form of agent or some form of, SQL or anything that sits behind it that allows you to speed that process up. It gives us a bit more chance to give people the headspace, especially if they come at junior side of things, to flex their creativity and flex the strategies that they want to employ. Instead of just doing, as I call it, busy work, it changes it to be more strategic, a bit more creative. So yeah, that's how we're using it. We've got this moniker called brains and bots. So it's like brains are actually the things that matter. Bots are there to enable the brains to do better work. So yeah, in short, it's enable people, don't get rid of them. And I think it leans into your point. We actually want to give juniors more chances. We don't want to just do ad copy. I think it's important, but there's more to just paid media nowadays.
Is there anything that you guys have seen where you go, that AI thing that you've done within your business is amazing, or oh my god, never use AI again? That was the worst decision you've ever made. Have either of you come across anything where you just wouldn't use it again?
I mean, I had this really weird, unusual situation where I had a business, sold a business, and 18 months elapsed in the meantime where I didn't pay much attention to stuff. So I had this really unusual viewpoint of being able to see at the end of 2022 some people doing some stuff with AI and thinking, that ain't going to work. And then not checking again for 18 months and going, yeah, it didn't work. So all the things that feel like they are playing out in real time. And I'm talking like scaling content production. Like if AI produces and distributes content, that's bad. That's just bad. Like there's no world where that's a good thing. Full stop.
I agree.
And
it links into dead internet theory, doesn't it? But if it will recycle what it can get. So
and I think I've seen now YouTube are actually stopping monetizing AI generated content on its platform because that has become unbelievable. People are churning stuff out. God, I can't even think about how many hours have been churned out on AI slop, as it's called.
Music's a big challenge as well. I can't remember who I was speaking to about it, but I listen to a lot of lo-fi when I work. I like lo-fi beats. The amount of it's hard to distinguish what is AI driven now versus what isn't. And I don't know, it's sad, man, because it just zaps creativity. And I think let's not use it in that way. So yeah, I back your point up. It's not there for content, is it? It's there for maybe giving you content ideas that you can branch out. And I'm not sure if you agree with that, but I'd say it's more of like, it's a good idea generator, not necessarily something that you run with straight away. Like, I'll take that and then I'll add it to something else and then I'll change this. And then that's when you get your really cool idea because it's based on some bit of research or something that actually matters.
Yeah, I don't think it matters where ideas come from, as long as you are using them to allow you to establish your own viewpoint, right? I don't think the fact that they come from AI makes them any less valid than the fact that you were listening to an audiobook or reading a blog post or something. Like if it's inspired you to write something, and I think that's the thing, it's got to be inspiration. It can't be the backbone of a thing that you've changed some words for just to avoid the plagiarism detectors. I think that probably is a good indication that you don't have a viewpoint if you've not added something to it, because AI does not generally have a viewpoint.
Well, it can't have a viewpoint in general. It only pulls off of everything it can find. I think especially with Cloudflare, potentially looking at blocking AI accessing certain websites. Probably going to see that a bit more where we see more cookie cutter content. You'll find AI will do the standard Boris Johnson in COVID of, like the rules of free. It does it all the time. And it's really annoying. You can see it stands like sore fun. And I think I said it before this podcast, like I'm very much of the ilk of I will block people that are just pushing out AI slop. It's just not the vibe, is it? Like community and people being creative is actually quite cool. Like let's not rob people of that. Like let's do something.
I think the other potential issue there is like copyright as well. Like where is it really getting inspiration from? And if that's inspiring you to do something that's similar, is that actually someone else's work? It can be very complicated, I think, within that space to really understand things. But we talked a little bit about kind of data sharing in AI before as well. And I think some of the bigger platforms are definitely taking that into consideration. They're not just sharing information because you put in some figures, are they? They're quite lock and key about it.
Yeah, we are undoubtedly probably going to have data breaches. Like with everything, like data's never, in my opinion, 100% safe. Like we've seen it across multiple platforms over the past decade. But if you've got a pro version of a lot of AI or LLMs like chatbots, like you're automatically opted out. But if anyone does want to just opt out of sharing information, just go into your settings. You can toggle it on and off on pretty much most of the platforms nowadays. And I think that's probably a good place to start. And I'd probably heed, I don't share or try not to share as little data as possible for is training a model outside of what I want to use it for. So I'm like, don't know, it feels oddly personal and private, especially when I'm like, I suppose, ChatGPT and some pretty odd stuff at like 1 a.m. in the morning. I don't want that stuff on the way.
Yeah. What's really interesting as well is because we're talking about this primarily in the context of information, but my last agency, the last one I worked for before I went solo, was Ride Shotgun, and it was a content production agency. And so actually it's very much on the front lines of the battle against AI, because AI is producing large amounts of content. And the ownership question, the copyright question, is the one that's stopping bigger businesses from embracing this in the way that some of the smaller and, call them entrepreneurial, but like risk tolerant is probably what I would say businesses are doing. And the reason is because who owns the content once it's been produced, and where did the content come from, and who owned that, is a problem that could cost those businesses millions and millions of pounds. And so what you're seeing in those production environments is most of the RFPs that come through say, you must agree that you must not use AI on this. And that's really interesting, that it's not just, it's the area where AI is most closely touching the businesses, that they are very much like, you must not touch AI, because they're so scared of what could genuinely cripple their business. And, quite right to be scared of it, I think.
That's probably a really good niche to be in, because if everyone's using AI and you're actually not, you've probably got a space of which people will come to you because, hey, I'm not using AI and everyone else is doing some form of AI to cheat the system, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and there's a place for it, right? So like Ride Shotgun do some good stuff with AI, but it's largely the things that are very difficult to do manually. So it's the texturing, it's the additional layers of stuff, right? So the team do a lot of CGI content. They are, historically, when you're working with the likes of B&Q, etc., you would build a set, you'd paint a wall, you'd photograph it, you'd paint it a different color and photograph it again. That's not very scalable. That's quite problematic to do. So you do that kind of thing with CGI. Where AI can add some benefit to that is, what if I want a feather cushion? What if I want some fur on the floor? What if I want grass outside? Like, you're going to illustrate grass? That would take forever. AI can add those little extra details in quite quickly, but it can't create a whole shot in a way that looks like that's a legitimately someone's bedroom and I'd like to sleep in that bedroom.
Yeah.
It looks like this weird little fever dream that you're thinking, I think someone's literally having a bit of a nightmare here.
Yeah. When you blow that up on a TV ad as well, you can really tell if something is just by the backgrounds of things. I remember seeing a video of like an airplane factory, and in the background you get the airplanes that were like this at a cross angle. It's like, that looks really bizarre, but you can spot AI a mile off, even if it is done pretty well.
Did you see the speaking of like bad AI and bad like creation, have you seen the Will Smith promos for his latest tour? The crowd is completely AI in a lot of them, and it is so badly done. And you can see where it's just like massively falling down. Like, I think I got it, someone sent me on YouTube, and I was like, this is so bad. It's like the faces are melting. It's like signs make no sense. But it's like the blend of like the real life they've also filmed under his shows and then just padded out the crowd with a load of AI. And it just looks bad.
It just ruins trust, doesn't it? When you start seeing like, you question the entire thing. Was there ever an audience member there in the first place? Is the whole thing AI? So if you just get one snippet wrong, it really can discredit your business or service. So this is a bit of a new segment. We're going to do quick fire questions. So we're going to ask some really rapid fire questions and see how quickly you can answer them. So what is one piece of advice you'd give on AI for marketers today?
I would, because my clients typically are marketing agencies, and because I'm typically working with owners of marketing agencies, this is advice for owners of marketing agencies. And that is, don't try and assume and don't put on the staff that they need to solve the AI problem, right? When you ask the staff, what should we be doing about AI? It shows that you don't have a plan, right? It sucks that this is your problem, but it's your business, so it is. And I think staff want leadership. Staff want this comfort that there is some future for them. And so if you don't feel like you have the answers, find someone who does. There's lots of people who will talk to you about what you could be doing differently. But it's not a good idea to give the speech about it's coming for your job, sort yourselves out, kids, because maybe it is, but it just shows that you don't have a plan.
So where do you think AI is headed in your area next?
I think that the things that are happening at the moment will continue, right? So there'll be more ingested information, there'll be more available information. I think there'll be more monetization of that. So I think in the same way that you get some news that you would log into and subscribe to, I think you will get some sources that you can only get in by paying for them, to try and differentiate between the ingested crap and the ingested good stuff. So I think there's going to be a little bit more of a business model change from some of those journalists, information providers, etc.
Ace. And finally, what is one thing that you'd love to use AI for, but you haven't had an opportunity to use that yet?
I tried to use Notebook LM to try and do an audit of agency positioning, because that's a thing I do anyway. And I thought totally it should be able to be sped up. And it just doesn't understand what I mean. And so I tried to get some information from Notebook LM that gives me what I'm looking for. And after much prompting, I thought I could have just done this in this time. So I feel like that's probably on me. But it's not something that's been able to give me just yet. So I'm using AI in different ways to what I thought I would be using it for sure.
Okay, that's really interesting. Just on that, we were talking about before in terms of like the number of times you have to do a task, the repeatability and that kind of one-off tasks. And if you're doing a one-off task that's going to give you value for loads of time, then it's okay to do the task. But if you're doing lots of tasks every week, a bit like reporting or something like that, then it's the time to get the AI involved. And that's when it's worth learning or doing something like to train the AI and really dedicate the time to use it, because then it'll pay you back forever or for a long time. So that's a really interesting point. That's the end of the quickfire questions you passed. Well done.
So we've spoken a lot about AI throughout this and how agencies can use it. How do you know we've been using it? But I think actually we've missed one of the more important questions. What are you using right now on a daily basis?
Well, I use Gemini, and that's because it comes with Google Workspace, and I'd originally increased my subscription because I wanted e-signature software, and then Gemini comes built in with that, and I didn't know how much I would use it, and what I use it for most frequently. So I ask Gemini to record notes from my calls, and and it shares notes between both people, which is really helpful because it means that I talk without looking back here and going, sorry, I'm just making notes or whatever. I can concentrate a little bit more on the interaction, which is really positive. But because I do consulting with a few clients like on an ongoing basis, and for some of my clients, I have a weekly call, for example, by this point has recorded maybe 20, maybe more calls. I can just say, what do we talk about? Like over the course of the last 20, 30 weeks, whatever, what do we most frequently speak about? How much of the conversation has been dominated by that problem? And it helps me to have some conversations about like, we talk about this. Do you know how much of our time collectively we've spent kind of discussing this thing? Maybe it's time to make a decision. Maybe that person needs to go. Maybe that's an issue that we need to solve right now because we have spent total of 10 hours or whatever on this exact problem. I know it's an important problem, but I mean, I've got the ability not only to know that because it's recorded, but actually ask some questions and say, actually, it feels like we've covered this before, and I can just find that really quickly. So it's in the consulting space, it's really interesting to be able to just have notes recorded for posterity that I can use and not just like flick through some pages. And I feel like it was probably about November time that we were talking about this thing. I could just say, what did we talk about and when? And it'll spit it out. It's really helpful.
I'm using that quite a lot, Gemini, just because it hooks up to Google Drive and everything else as well as the meeting. So you can kind of go, hang on, with this client that's got 3 different budgets for these time periods and one for PMax and one for YouTube. Like, what were those budgets again? And I can make sure I don't have to ask the client another question. You just whack it straight into your budget planning sheet or whatever. So to have those connections, I think are really good. Gemini, again, isn't that expensive. Maybe is it 16 to £20 a month, but give or take. and you've got everything on that. You've got the note, you've got the e-signature, which I use as well, because again, it just stops you having another tool that's completely separate.
Yeah.
And then you can start to use a bit like 7 seconds of VO footage for that as well, if you do need anything like that. So it's definitely useful to use anything like that.
Yeah, we use Gemini as well.
Oh,
we're,
cool.
we're a Google Workspace at work. I use ChatGPT mainly outside of work, but I think now we're getting, and this is a completely separate topic, but I'm not going into now. Now that MCPs are now becoming a bit more commonplace within the app, so you can just connect it to whatever exists. It's a lot easier to connect to external services. I think we're going to see a lot more services offer that. So I think my Gemini usage may go down again outside of work, and it will be ChatGPT or Perplexity based or even Claude. I'm very agnostic with it as it stands, but yeah, I think it is probably one of the biggest time saves is actually recording those notes, and it houses all the knowledge we need to make a decision, or in your case, tell people to make a decision.
I really wonder how long it is between when a chatbot connects to our bank accounts and starts to make decisions for us on, this is your budget for takeaways this month, and how far away that is. And then it's actually going to scour the web and buy stuff for you. We know that's already sort of happening with agents, and you've had some experiences of that as well, haven't you?
We've had some pretty weird experiences. I recently got a ChatGPT agent to go through my LinkedIn, and I gave it my credentials and logins. And I was like, go through my profile and then write a brand guideline of who I am, just because I was trying to create some content. Trust me, it works to a point, still needs editing a hell of a lot. But it starts picking up the colloquialisms and Yorkshireisms and how I write, how I speak. But yeah, it's very strange to give your credentials over to an agent and just like, cool, go ahead and pretend you're me and do things for me. It's absolutely nuts.
Yes, it's going to be a great time to be a Russian hand.
Yeah, it can so easily mimic people now. It can change people's voice. It can pretend it's you. It can ring people. Like, it can email. It's a slightly terrifying world. So let's all use AI for good and not some horrible purpose.
So last time when Chris and I spoke, we did a tiny little section of essentially percentages and the number of people, essentially a stat round of understanding where we're at. There's a really interesting one that like we've read about, and I think it's a fun one to have people have a guess at. How many people in the UK, as a percentage, think that AI is coming for their job?
Oh, I have heard that this is a huge number, and it's like, I'm going to say like 8 or something.
Ooh, not quite 80. It's 51, if I've got it right.
Yeah, 51. It's these sources that we go to, they're always a bit perhaps off what real people think, but I was surprised it's quite low actually. And I don't know if that's because half the population are actually really confident in their own jobs and it's something bots can't do, but apparently 51%.
I generally think people probably don't think about it. Like, probably people that aren't in the digital space, like like a plumber, somebody that's like of a trade, probably is like, it's not coming for my job. And I imagine, I don't know the makeup of the UK populace and working, but I imagine we're a bit of an echo chamber, aren't we?
We are, yeah. If it was very marketing, that stat I think is in general. Whereas if we did it on marketing, I think that would be, much higher.
If we did it on marketing, it'd be higher. If we were honest, it's probably a bit lower.
So, how many tools exist within the market right now that are purely an AI-based tool? So we're not talking any of the stuff that's like an add-on where they've got a plugin, but does a chatbot or anything like that. Things that are purely AI built.
Okay. I'd say it's going to be thousands.
It is thousands. According to ChatGPT, it's 10,000, which I actually think might be on the lower side globally. I think there's probably more than that it's not picking up, but maybe ones that it's scraping and has access to right now.
Right now, I think that's it. Yeah, I think the thing we discussed last time was, isn't it like billions and billions the kind of AI space is going to be worth to the economy in the future? So that figure is probably going to quickly become outdated and it's going to rise rapidly. I think the point behind this is that there are so many companies jumping on this trend that clearly there's something there, or we're all being sold some snake oil. There's one thing or the other, I think.
I think the snake oil thing is very true. The amount of people you speak to, I'm like, oh, we're rolling out this AI tool, and I'm like, come on now, like you don't need one. Your platform has no reason to have an AI tool. Just produce a report that's scheduled each day or week. Like, it's probably more beneficial.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
The unfortunate truth is that as soon as you mention AI to a potential client, or say put it on your webinar, put it on your event, it will generate traction. We've seen this with the first episode of the podcast. There is a interest in AI, even if it's just people just saying it's AI when it's not. And I think that's the really important thing here, is that people distinguish what is automation and what is truly AI. So across UK marketers at the moment, what percentage do you reckon of those marketeers have reported a positive ROI from using AI?
I think that's also high. I think that's going to be 75%.
Wow. Okay. You were 1% off. 76%.
Is it?
Yeah, which is a lot, isn't it? It's,
Yeah.
3 in every 4 people get a positive interaction. Granted, some tools aren't that expensive. Your ChatGPT Pro is $20 a month, but then you've got Gemini Ultra, which is 250 quid a month, I think. So there really is that scale of it. But I think more and more, as we kind of talked about with those 10,000 tools, those 10,000 tools are probably going to be some on the lower end and then some right at the higher end. It's that kind of mix there of horses for courses.
I think we are coming to time as well. Kenwright, is there one last thing you'd want to bestow on everybody before we finish this episode?
No, I think we've covered a really wide range of topics. It's been fun.
Yeah. It's been really fun. Cheers for coming on as well. It's been
Thanks
good
for having
time.
me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Appreciate
Plenty of insight. That's the podcast, everyone. So yeah, thanks very much for listening today. If you did like this episode, please give it a little like on YouTube, subscribe for more episodes, and we'll come back at you next time with our next special guest. Bye for now.
Cheers, guys.